Chaos in the courtroom in the Rittenhouse case. The prosecution, the judge, the defense, all arguing about manipulated evidence, and new evidence has emerged that the prosecution intentionally sabotaged the evidence they gave to the defense so the defense would not be able to muster up an argument against provocation. It is so bad that the judge has even stated he wants the prosecutors on the stand under oath to explain how this happened. Now, I don't know if that will happen, but I'll tell you how bad it is. The defense has requested a mistrial. Now, you may be saying, Tim, I thought they did that already. No. The defense requested a mistrial with prejudice. They wanted this dismissed and never to be brought up again. It's gotten so bad that the defense has now verbally requested the judge simply declare a mistrial, and we will have another trial later. The judge says to the prosecutor that he warned them there would be a day of reckoning over this video, but he's going to wait to see what the jury says. We're going on day 3 of deliberations, so it's not looking good for the defense. That's a sad reality for all of you who support Kyle Rittenhouse. There's a variety. We don't know exactly why. We don't know exactly why they're being held up this way. It could be that the rumors are true, that 10 of the jurors are like, this is clearly self-defense, but there's 2 holdouts saying, I will not face the backlash. And thus, they're jammed up. Why? They came back out and said, we want to watch the drone video again, because it seems like there may be a couple of people saying, no, he provoked. The jury could come out, hand the judge their verdict. Hung jury seems likely at this point. And the judge could just say, you know what? Mistrial with prejudice. Go home, kid. End of story. There's a viral tweet where you've got Kyle Rittenhouse standing behind the judge as they watch a video. It was this woman, she tweeted this. She said, I've never seen a murder trial where the alleged murderer is standing beside the judge unhandcuffed. It's an interesting point. I don't think it's definitive of every single murder trial, but it is interesting. And as I've stated it before, if a riot breaks out and ADA, Binger, and Krause are outside, they will run to Kyle Rittenhouse for help, and you know it. And so do they. But there's evidence, my friends. You see, on day 10, we have this video from PBS, and I'll go through this in greater detail. This is the YouTube video. You can see the URL is highlighted up top. This is from November 15th. You can see that on Krause's desktop, he has two files. He has 2 programs, Format Factory and Handbrake. I find that really interesting. Format Factory and is 2 different versions of the same video transcoding software. What does this software do? Well, it can convert video files. It can take, say, a 1980 video and convert it to a 480 video. It's really interesting. But there's also more evidence to consider in the manipulation of what the state has done. And please, Judge Schroeder, please declare a mistrial with prejudice. You cannot let the state get away with this. The state has presented something rather interesting. The resolution of the drone video itself is questionable. And I thought this too, but not enough to bring up. The drone video is an oblong format that doesn't exist. You know, it's 1980 by 1080 or whatever, right? Or was it 1920 by 1080? Maybe I'm getting the numbers wrong. The point is, you know, the format. When you open your computer screen and it tells you what things, the aspect ratio. The drone footage is like 1920 by 814. Wait a minute. How do you get that weird resolution? It's like a weird oblong. Interesting. It appears the original video was cropped, and the true source material exists somewhere else. It may have been cropped because they were removing Fox News's branding or graphics. If that's the case, this is manipulated evidence from the start. We must have a mistrial with prejudice. The evidence is there. Now, a lot of people have said, initially it was they claimed, like, we had the high-res video. Some people, Jack Posobiec tweeted, it was texted to the defense. That would compress it, but it wouldn't change why the file name would be different. But let's read. Let's read from Andrew Branca. Rittenhouse trial mayhem. Courtroom fights over videos and mistrial as jury deliberates. Look at this. Rittenhouse defense makes a 3rd motion for a mistrial based on concealment of high drone video. The defense would have no way of knowing that they were not provided real evidence. The judge said a day of reckoning will come. You better not just mistrial this. A mistrial is still good for the defense in this capacity. Normally, it's not great, but it seems like the defense has realized, after looking at a day of deliberations, a potential hung jury, or holdouts, if you're going to get a hung jury, get the mistrial. Get the mistrial. Take that. It's not a win per se, but it's better than a hung jury. It's them saying that they had a mistrial because of the prosecution's screw-ups. It's better than nothing. They'll get another chance at this. They know the state's case, they know the state's witnesses, and they know the state's weaknesses. The state can say the same of the defense, but the defense has a bit of an advantage in that capacity. Judge must rule mistrial with prejudice. Do not let prosecutors get away with this. Hey, but the judge and the prosecutor are both the state, so we'll be lucky if that's the case. Branca says, the jury deliberations take place in private, of course, so we can only speculate as to what discussions are taking place among the 12 jurors. That doesn't mean the day was uneventful, however. The newest request for a mistrial is based primarily on the undisputed fact that the prosecution had provided a copy of drone video to the defense that was 1/16 the resolution of the version that would be actually shown to the jury. With no way to know the high-resolution version existed, the defense now tells the court they would have shaped their legal arguments and prepared their client to testify different than they did, only with the low-resolution version in possession. Fact. Fact, fact, fact. When you have when they're arguing, this video shows he's pointing the weapon. They look at the video and they say, I can't really make anything out of this, so what can we do? The prosecutors are speculating. If they had the high-resolution video, they could have said, that's clearly his arm. Let's point that out to the jury. They weren't able to mount a defense because they weren't given the evidence. This is a grave constitutional violation. They say the ADA crafts had a laundry list of excuses for why the defense ended up with a lower resolution video, smaller file size with a different file name. And there's a video, you got to watch it from the trial because Krause is like, I mean, maybe when I email the file, the name will change. And they're like, no, it won't. I showed you. He's got this software. Look at this. Here, it's kind of funny that you're watching a YouTube video, which I'm trying to highlight a YouTube video. Take a look at that URL. I tweeted out the link. The timestamp is 8 hours, 13 minutes, and 19 seconds near the end. And you can see Handbrake and Format Factory. If it was just one or the other, you might be able to be like, but is it really the same Handbrake? Well, he's got both. Check this out. This is Handbrake's website. Open source video transcoder. I mean, no disrespect to Handbrake. Sorry, you're getting roped into this. Seems like you've got a fine open source software there to help people transcode videos. You can load up this program, put in a video, select from a drop-down menu, lower, right there it says, look at 480p by 30. You can load up and say, drop the resolution. That would create a new file name. If they texted the video, it would compress, but it would not change the file name. This, in my opinion, listen, I have been working in video editing for, how old am I? 35, for 23, that's not fair, 25 years. I'm not exaggerating when I say I was around 10 years old when I started put together my first computer and began working on computer graphics. All right, I'll be fair though. It wasn't initially me doing any video stuff, but in the early days when I was about 11 or 12, I was working with Real Video Player, ultra low res video streaming because I wanted to watch Dragon Ball Z. That's right. And with the Real Video Player, if you remember back in the day, there were ways to stream video over the internet, but it was extremely low res. It would buffer. It was awful, but I got to watch Goku fight Cell. I mean this literally. I was like, 12 years old. When I was about 12 or 13, I started doing graphic, multimedia fusion, Premiere, and things like that, and Flash. I was doing Flash animation and videos. And then when I started skateboarding, we started making our own skate videos. I actually used, I think I was using After Effects, no joke, to like try and render a video. Or I was using Flash, actually. It was weird. It was crazy back in the day. I've been doing video editing for a long time. And let me just tell you, based on my decades of working with video editing software, and especially running a company where I've produced documentaries in the past, they The prosecution, in my expert opinion, willfully down-rendered this video, manipulated the evidence to hurt the defense because they thought the defense would not notice. Let me explain. I explained this yesterday, but for those that have missed that context, everybody was saying they withheld evidence. That was the big breaking story. Jack Posobiec, with all due respect, he tweeted they withheld video evidence. That's not true. But I understand why you may have gotten that wrong. They provided manipulated evidence. If the prosecution did not turn over the video and then went to court and said, we have video, the defense would say, Your Honor, we've not been provided this evidence and we need to formulate our defense. The judge would be like, of course. What are you doing, prosecutors? You can't do that. Give them the evidence. Here's where the state got clever. Give them a grainy down, a lower resolution, compressed version. They will not know the difference. They'll watch it. They'll be confused and unable to formulate a defense. We'll then play a high-res version for the jury to make our case. And I'll be honest. A lot of people are like, wouldn't they notice the video was clearer when it was being played for the jury? No. I mean, seriously, pull up YouTube. Watch a music video at 720p or 720 because it was like 814 or whatever. Drop it down to 144 or 240. See if you notice. Because I'll tell you this, you will see the immediate change. But put it on a TV, play the video, and you'll understand how it could be that on a TV, sitting in a courtroom, you would not notice the difference in resolution. It was only because the defense was showing their version to the jury that the prosecution was forced to bring in their evidence. You see, this is where their plot, in my opinion, unraveled. Their goal was to show their version to the jury and argue, see, that's his gun pointing, and it was a slightly clearer version. The defense, with a clearer version, could have said, here's our expert witness, here's our expert to enhance this and show you what really happened. But they didn't get that opportunity. They even said they would have crafted a defense differently. When the defense played the low-res version for the jury, I believe it was during jury instructions, for the court, I believe, not for the jury. No, I think it might have been for the jury. Okay, I could be getting that wrong. But what happens is the judge is looking at the video, so I think it was for the court, and the judge may have been like, you can't see anything. So they had no choice but to be like, our version is much clearer. That right there should have stopped the judge, stopped the court, and I don't understand why it didn't. The judge should have immediately went, what do you mean your version is clearer? You provided evidence to the defense, didn't you? But everyone missed it. So then, following that, the defense filed their motion for a mistrial with prejudice. Now, I want to tell you where, let me read a little bit more. They say, interestingly, a photo purportedly of ADA Krause's laptop screen being projected onto a large 4K TV shows the presence of imaging software named Handbrake and also Format Factory. Let me go back a little bit. After his laundry list of excuses, the judge was unconvinced by these excuses and suggested the possibility of putting the prosecution on the witness stand themselves to testify under oath as to how this video mix-up occurred. Do it! This would be apocalyptic. I want to see it. Please, judge, make them testify under oath. Do not let them make a mockery of your courtroom. They have been smacking you in the face repeatedly. Will you stand for this? You know, we need people of strength and merit, determination and mental fortitude and willpower to say, I know what's right, I know the law, I know what's wrong, and I'm not going to play politics. But the judge said, I'm going to wait for the jury. I can respect that to a degree. But if it were me, yeah, I'm not playing those games. If I were a judge, we had a conversation yesterday on Timcast IRL. And I said this, you know, we had Michael Malice on the show. You guys, you probably know him. He's an anarchist. And we talked about convicting people being on a jury. I said, listen, be warned. Because if I'm on a jury, there is almost no circumstance in which I will convict someone. There is almost no, on a grand jury, there is almost no circumstance where I would return an indictment. Almost no circumstance. If it involves kids, if there are crimes with serious victims and there's evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, I believe in our system to find justice. But I'm not going to play games with doubt. I will not condemn someone to prison because I'm unsure. And you're not supposed to. It's supposed to be beyond a reasonable doubt, right? Well, I'll tell you this. If I'm sitting there and they say, we are trying to convince you of something, you can show me a video. I wouldn't convict Alec Baldwin. You're damn right. I would not. Well, as much as I believe the guy it's more likely that he intentionally shot that woman on set. You put me on a grand jury and I'm going to say, I would say this to everyone's faces. It is better that 100 guilty persons escape than one innocent person suffer. Now, you can show me all the conjecture, all the circumstantial evidence, and all the witness testimony, and I'll say, unless you show me a video of, you had a camera, right, of Alec Baldwin with intent pointing the weapon and killing that woman, I'm not going to indict him. I'm not going to put him on trial. Nope, sorry. Don't have me as a part of your system then. Because I'll tell you this, I certainly think there's a good likelihood Alec Baldwin should be charged. And he should go to jail, but it's not going to come from me. I will not be the arbiter of a person's freedom. I will not be the boss. I will not be in charge. Won't do it. I will, maybe that's passing the buck, to be completely honest. Maybe Alec Baldwin's a bad example, but there are circumstances in which I would. Not in the case of Kyle Rittenhouse. Not in the case of Gage Grosskreutz. Here's a better example. You put me on a grand jury with a circumstance with Gage Grosskreutz, who's in possession of a concealed weapon, and you say, should we indict him for what happened that night in Kenosha? And I will say no. You can. I'm not your boss. I'm not the arbiter of truth and morality. You can do it, not me. You put me in a courtroom on a jury to convict, I would nullify. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, even for Gage Grosskreutz. I'm just, sorry. I'm not a conservative. I'm not going to be like law and order and all that stuff. I certainly believe in order, and I certainly believe in what's right and what is wrong. But I just, there's very rare circumstances in which I'm going to convict someone. Now, you want to talk about Gage Grosskreutz committing aggravated assault on Kyle Rittenhouse, which we can clearly see, and okay, there you go. So maybe it's a little bold when I say almost no circumstances. What I mean is, what is it? Most criminal prosecutions are like property and things like that. You're not getting that from me. I'm not convicting people. Now, if it were me as the judge, seeing what went down, the moment the prosecution questioned the silence of the defendant, which they did, which is, as Mike Cernovich said, black letter law, undisputable. He says, you're in law school. They'll show you a court case. There is a right answer. Like, there's no question of this. The moment that happened, I would say, did you just question the defendant's right to remain silent in my courtroom? And when they were like, well, no. Defense, what do you say? And if the defense says we want a motion for a mistrial with prejudice, and they did, I would say, granted, get the hell out of my courtroom. And when the press and everyone says what happened, I would say, if the state thinks they're coming into my courtroom to violate the constitutional rights of anyone, we will not tolerate that as a country, as a people, and as a question of law. I will not allow the state to purposefully violate constitutional rights and trigger a retrial, dragging people through another process again. That is in defense of every witness, everyone who was subpoenaed and didn't want to be there, but said, I'm gonna tell the truth. Everyone who had to turn over their property, their videos, and the defendant himself. You're going to drag them through that again because you decided to violate the constitutional rights of the defendant? Have a nice day. Mistrial with prejudice granted. I think the judge has done a pretty good job. I think he has. And maybe I'm just not I wouldn't be a reasonable judge, because maybe it's more reasonable to say, I will now hold this mistrial with prejudice in my back pocket for you doing this. We'll continue, and at any moment, rest assured, I will play that card. And the judge said that. Maybe he's right. Maybe I wouldn't make a good judge because I'm too adamant in, how dare you, right? I'm too aggressive. And so maybe it's better that you have judges like Schroeder, who now has that moment where he told them, if this happens one more time, Judge, it did. A grave constitutional violation happened now for the third time. The first, being the questioning of the defendant's right to remain silent in front of the jury. That's shocking because we have a Fifth Amendment right, but the jury does hold it against you if you don't testify. To bring it up is to put a knife through the heart of your constitutional rights, to prejudice the jury against you for exercising your rights. And Kyle Rittenhouse was testifying. The next was when the judge ruled certain evidence wouldn't be admitted. And the prosecution says, I thought you left the door open. I was going to bring it up anyway. That is violating the rights of the defendant because the judge's ruling was ignored. And the judge said, you do it again. And then they did. And it appears to be intentional sabotage. Krause has video transcoding software on his computer. So let me put it this way. He can make all the arguments in the world about how it accidentally had its name changed and was compressed. Bull effing ish. You don't have transcoding software on your computer and not understand how it works. He may not be a video encoding expert, but he downloaded two different transcoding. Look at this. I'm not going to play games here. This is from PBS NewsHour. Watch live closing arguments in the Rittenhouse trial, day 10, timestamp 8/13/19. And you can see Format Factory and Handbrake. Now, I've shown you Handbrake as video transcoding. Here's free time. This is free time software. Format Factory provides audio and video converter, clipper, joiner, splitter, mixer, crop, and delogo. Do you remember what I said earlier? The drone video in question is of a strange resolution. And the defense, the prosecutor has a video cropping software and transcoding software. How did you take a 1920 by 1080 video and end up with a 1920 by 814 or whatever it is? Someone cropped the video. They then somehow ended up with a different file that was given to the defense. Just so happens the defense has a video cropping and video compression software, two different programs. And he's like, I don't know how the name changed. No, you got caught. Judge, lock him up. Put him under oath. Criminally charge him. You mean to tell me this guy's got cropping software and compression software, provided a different file to the defense, and then tried acting like he doesn't know how file names are changed? I'll tell you what. Put me on a grand jury, and I would indict in this capacity. Why? Because he's an agent of the state who sought to suppress the rights of an American citizen. I don't care if you're Gage Grosskreutz. You try to indict him for his right to bear arms. I will not return an indictment. In fact, I would indict you as an agent of the state for trying to imprison someone for bearing arms. And I am no fan of Gage Grosskreutz, but he has a right to keep and bear arms. I would not indict. I would not convict. Period. An agent of the state has two programs, one to crop video, one to compress it. The video admitted into evidence, the unicorn footage, is a cropped version. It appears to be a cropped version of the original drone footage. What was removed was the full file format that had Fox News' graphic on it. That's what it appears to be. It's going viral now on Twitter. People are showing. They overlaid Tucker Carlson's drone footage with the evidence, and you can see the video has been cropped. Who did it? Krause has video cropping software on his computer, and he has compression software on his computer. At the very least, we could argue, Krause, how is it that you don't know that when a file is copied, its name doesn't change? How is it you don't know that when you have these two different versions of software? Certainly, you've rendered video. Indict. Get him on the stand. We are screwed, man. If this injustice is allowed to persist. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. We will see how this plays out, but boy, am I pissed off. We'll see how this plays out. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all at 1 p.m.